Hi there, I'm Paul. I recently quit my job as a software engineer at Google. I did it without having any plan of what I want to do next, how I'm going to make money going forward. Unlike most people who quit from these big tech companies, I didn't have any startup idea I wanted to pursue. I didn't have any job offers. Well, I didn't interview with any companies, and I didn't have any passive income. So you might think I don't really have much commitments, but that's not true. I'm married, I have a kid, I have a house with a mortgage. So quitting without having any concrete plan of what I'm going to do next was one of the most difficult decisions I made. Let me explain. Before I get into the details of how I ended up quitting my job like that, let me give you some backgrounds. I studied computer science in college and I went to work for several companies, including small to mid-sized companies. I tried doing my own startup once. 6 years later, I found myself not happy. I thought perhaps it's because I need to work on something more impactful, something that can really help me grow as an engineer. So I was trying to decide where to go next, and at the time, the big tech companies, the FANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, these companies were going through explosive growth. This was back in 2019. I knew that these companies, they have their own set of problems, but I figured, I will give them a try. Since their business was expanding, there was a lot of opportunities. So I'll give it a shot and see how it goes. Thankfully, I landed a job at Google. I worked in the New York office for 3 years until I quit 4 months ago. I worked for several different products. And 3 years into Google, I found myself in the same position again. I wasn't happy, but let me be clear. I was working on an interesting product that was growing really fast. I was part of a great team. I had great manager and support, great people. But for some reason, I wasn't happy. I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on. So I started going through this thought process that led me to decide quitting is the right thing to do. Let me walk you through the thought process I went through at the time. I wasn't happy with my current career trajectory. The thing about working in a corporate environment is you can often see what you will be doing several years down the road. By looking at what your manager is doing, what your seniors are doing, I saw them working on these big problems that involve working with a lot of people across different parts of the organization. It was challenging problem that requires a lot of collaboration. It's an interesting problem, but for some reason, for me, I just didn't find myself being excited or I wasn't looking forward to working on those things. So that's when I knew staying in the current position isn't the right thing to do. Okay, so if I'm not happy with where I am, where should I go next? One of the benefits of working at Google is you have access to these thousands of job postings within Google. The internal transfer is relatively easy, and Google covers so many different industries, so many different markets, different office locations, different countries, and you can choose the size of the organization from, super small startup-like environment to a very large group, serving billions of users. This job posting site was a good starting point for me to get a sense of where I want to go next, whether it's the domains or the size of the organization or the type of technologies. So I was browsing through all these positions and I found that I'm not interested in any of them. I mean, sure, there are more opportunities outside Google, but I was trying to use this website as a gateway or the first kind of filter to narrow down my search. But I wasn't interested in any of them. And I wasn't motivated to look elsewhere outside Google either. So that was strange. I genuinely didn't know what I wanted to work on next. Over time, I was getting more and more frustrated and that left me with very little room to think about what I wanted to next. After working on my day job that was not fulfilling 8 hours a day, I don't know about other people, but I was like so drained and I didn't have the energy or the mental space to think about what I want to work on next. I know there's this conventional wisdom that says if you want to quit your day job, you need to have side income or business on the side that generates some sort of income so you can afford to quit and then do something you want to work on. I know that model works. I'm an engineer, I'm logic driven. That wisdom is very logical. You have some sort of income, there is less risk in trying something new. But I didn't know how I could do it. Sure, it works for some people, but I just didn't have the room to think about how I'm going to start something from scratch or take initiative. I also had this fear that if I were to start something just so I can make enough passive income or some sort of income to quit my job, I would be operating out of fear of having to continue working at my day job. So I might just jump onto whatever comes across as a good way to make some money. So I might find myself in the same position several years down the road. I really needed to reflect and decide exactly what I really want to work on. These conventional wisdoms are exactly that, conventional. Steve Jobs said there are these rules in life, and these rules are made by society, which is made of people who are not necessarily smarter than me. We can bend these rules, we can break these rules, and I think that's the message I needed to hear. So I decided that sure, this conventional wisdom makes sense, but I'm going to choose to not follow that and take the risk. So those are the thought process I went through to come to the conclusion that yes, I do need to quit my job. I think it's one thing to go through this process and have the reasons written down to justify why quitting is the right thing to do, but it's another thing to actually have the courage to take the action and quit your job. So I want to talk about where and how I found the courage to actually pull the trigger. And I think that's going to make this video a bit too long. So I'm going to talk about that in the next video. I hope this video is helpful for those of you who are in a similar situation. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.